So here we have two equations, and we're asked to solve the equations. So they're called simultaneous equations because you can't solve them independently. You can't find x and y independently. You need to solve them together. And there are two common ways of doing this. You can solve them using a process called elimination or substitution. They're both straightforward. You can choose the method that you find easiest. I'll try both here. So to eliminate one of the variables, say x or y, you need to be able to add these equations together in such a way that the y coefficients or the x coefficients add up to 0. So I'm going to multiply this equation by 3 so that I get a 3y here, and that's how I'll eliminate y. So this equation is unchanged, but this equation, the second one, I've multiplied by 3. So I multiply the x by 3, I multiply the y by 3, and I multiply the 7 by 3. Then what I do is I add these two equations together. So 10x plus 3x gives me 13x, and minus 3y and positive 3y gives me 0, and that's what we were trying to achieve, so that's good news. And the 5 and 21 give me 26. So now our equation doesn't include a y, there's only x. So now we're able to solve that to find x. So you divide both sides by 13, that gives you x. Now we know x, we can substitute that back in the original equation. So if I substitute x into one of the original equations, I can then rearrange to find y. So now I know x and I know y. That's the end of the question. We've found x and y, and that's the final answer. Now, an alternative method is to try to rearrange one of these two equations so that we can find x in terms of y or y in terms of x. So in this case, what I've chosen to do is to rearrange this second equation to find y in terms of x. So I can then go back to my original equation, this first equation, and then replace y with this expression here. So you have your 10x, that's your 3, and now we're going to replace y with 7 minus x. Now your expression doesn't contain any y's in it. You can simply multiply this, so negative 3 times 7 is negative 21, negative 3 times negative x is plus 3x, and then keep rearranging, divide both sides by 13, and we have x equals 2. Now we know x, and we already have this equation between y and x. We can substitute that 2 in there, and that will give you your value for y. So now we know x and we know y. We're able to write the final answer as x equals 2 and y equals 5. And you'll notice it's the same answer whether you use elimination or substitution. And it's roughly the same number of steps as well, so neither is particularly easier than the other, but it depends on the equations you have. So that's how you would solve simultaneous equations.